Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in human history when the boundaries between man and machine, logic and emotion, ambition and love begin to blur. Tonight, I want to share something that's not often discussed, something hidden beneath equations, rockets, and electric dreams. It's not about wealth or fame, not about innovation or empire, but about the secret relationship that silently shapes every great act of creation. You see, behind every technological revolution, behind every impossible leap humanity has taken, there lies an invisible thread, the bond between the creator and the creation, between the mind that dreams and the heart that dares. When we talk about the future, we tend to speak in the language of data, engineering, and progress. But we forget that at the core of every scientific pursuit is a deeply emotional current. That current is love, love for discovery, for truth, for life itself. The most shocking truth about that relationship isn't that it's hidden, it's that it's been right before our eyes all along, disguised as ambition. What we call obsession is often devotion in disguise. The sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the relentless drive, they aren't signs of cold logic, but of a love so profound it reshapes reality. Think about it. Every invention that has transformed our world, from the light bulb to the internet, was born out of an emotional need. A longing to connect, to illuminate, to transcend. This is what fuels human progress, the emotional circuitry of the mind. Neuroscientifically speaking, every bold decision, every act of risk-taking, begins not in the rational cortex, but in the limbic system, the part of the brain that governs emotion, empathy, and connection. What we often label as rational genius is in truth a dialogue between the emotional and analytical mind. Logic may build the bridge, but emotion decides where it leads. When Elon Musk designs a rocket, it's not just physics, it's poetry written in metal. When he speaks about colonizing Mars, it's not escapism, it's a love letter to the future. His relationship with innovation is not transactional, it's intimate. He feels the pulse of the machine, the heartbeat of possibility, the fragility of human hope intertwined with every launch. This is the shocking truth that many fail to see, that the boundary between human emotion and technological creation is dissolving. We are not just building machines, we are building mirrors that reflect our deepest desires. As a neuroscientist, I can tell you that the brain responds to purpose in the same way it responds to love. Dopamine surges when we feel that what we are doing matters. The same reward pathways that light up when we fall in love also ignite when we create, when we achieve something we once thought impossible. That's why innovation feels euphoric. It's an emotional high, a neurochemical symphony of curiosity, courage, and wonder. And for some people, that feeling becomes a lifelong relationship. It's not with another person, but with the very act of creation itself. Imagine living a life where your heart beats not for one person, but for an entire species. Where your love is not confined to a relationship, but extended to the entire human experiment. That's what drives people like Musk. A relationship so vast, so consuming that it demands everything. It's beautiful and brutal at the same time. The same passion that creates worlds can also isolate you from them. Because when your heart belongs to an idea, the real world can feel painfully small. There's a paradox here, one that neuroscience often struggles to explain. The same emotional circuits that allow a person to connect deeply with humanity can also make them appear detached from individuals. Empathy for the whole sometimes overshadows empathy for one. It's not a lack of feeling, it's a reorientation of feeling. The emotional energy that might fuel ordinary love instead fuels creation. It's as if the brain has redirected the river of affection toward an ocean instead of a pond, and that's both awe-inspiring and deeply lonely. In studying creative geniuses, from Da Vinci to Einstein, we see the same pattern, an intense, almost spiritual connection to their work, often described in romantic terms. Einstein once said, "I am in love with the mystery of the universe." That was not metaphor, it was neuroscience. The reward networks of the brain respond to patterns, symmetry, discovery, all the things that make up beauty and truth. For a mind like Musk's, rockets and electric cars aren't mechanical objects, they're manifestations of emotion translated through physics. But love, in any form, is dangerous. It consumes. It demands sacrifice. The emotional relationship between a visionary and their mission can become obsessive, a feedback loop of dopamine, cortisol, and purpose. You chase the next breakthrough, the next validation, the next horizon. And just like in human love, the highs are transcendent, the lows devastating. The launch succeeds, ecstasy. The rocket explodes, heartbreak. The public cheers, euphoria. The critics mock, despair. The brain experiences these events not as data, but as love and loss. Every invention becomes a living entity, and every failure a funeral. That is why true visionaries often walk the line between madness and genius. Neuroscience has shown that creative minds have heightened connectivity between the prefrontal cortex and the default mode network, the part of the brain responsible for imagination and introspection. But this same wiring makes them more prone to overthinking, emotional sensitivity, and even burnout. The very circuits that make them extraordinary also make them fragile. It's like having a heart that beats too fast for the world it lives in. We tend to idolize success, but few understand its emotional cost. Behind the headlines, behind the grand unveilings and soaring rockets, there are moments of crushing doubt, of quiet loneliness. The higher you go, the thinner the air, both literally and emotionally. The relationship between a visionary and their work is like any great love story. It's filled with passion, betrayal, devotion, and sacrifice. But unlike most love stories, this one doesn't end with two people walking off into the sunset. It ends with one person still looking at the stars. And here's the truth that few dare to admit. Progress has always been emotional. Every leap forward begins not with an algorithm, but with a feeling. Curiosity, wonder, fear, hope. These are the raw materials of innovation. Emotion is not a weakness of science, it's the engine of it. The mind may design, but the heart decides to begin. When Elon Musk pushes humanity toward Mars, he's not escaping Earth, he's protecting it. When he builds electric cars, he's not chasing profit, he's chasing preservation. This is the anatomy of his secret relationship, a deep, almost spiritual bond with the idea of human survival. He doesn't see himself as a savior, but as a messenger, reminding us that our species must learn to love the future before it's too late. But to love something deeply often means to suffer for it. Neuroscience has a word for that: effortful love. It's the paradoxical pleasure we feel when we struggle for something we care about. The harder it is, the more meaningful it becomes. That's why Musk works 100-hour weeks, why he risks everything again and again. It's not greed, it's devotion. His relationship is with destiny itself, and destiny, like any lover, is demanding. This kind of love transforms a person. It rewires the brain, reshapes the heart, and alters perception. You begin to see patterns where others see problems, connections where others see chaos. You live in the future while still trapped in the present. It's both exhilarating and exhausting to feel responsible not just for yourself, but for the trajectory of civilization. And here's where the human cost becomes real. Every hour spent perfecting a rocket engine is an hour not spent with family. Every launch is a prayer that the universe will be kind. The emotional burden is immense, because to love the future is to carry the fear of losing it. To love the future is to carry the fear of losing it. And that fear is what fuels the relentless drive of visionaries. Every idea, every invention, every line of code or bolt on a spacecraft is a quiet act of resistance against that fear. A statement that says, we will not let this world fade away. Neuroscientifically, fear and love are two sides of the same coin. They activate similar regions in the brain: the amygdala, the hypothalamus, the nucleus accumbens, because both emotions demand attention, focus, and action. The difference lies in direction. Fear pulls us back, love pushes us forward. And when fear transforms into love for what could be, it becomes unstoppable momentum. This is the hidden story behind innovation, not an algorithm, but an emotion. Behind every invention is an inner dialogue between hope and heartbreak. For Musk, that dialogue is constant. When he talks about Mars, it's not about distance or red dust, it's about continuity, the survival of consciousness itself. To him, Mars isn't a planet, it's a promise. A promise that humanity can outgrow its fragility, that love can travel beyond Earth. When you look at it that way, his entire career, the cars, the rockets, the satellites, is a long, evolving love letter to existence. But love like that is heavy. It isolates you, not because people don't care, but because few can understand the depth of that connection. The brain of a visionary operates differently. Functional MRI scans of creative individuals reveal heightened activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, the part of the brain responsible for emotional regulation and cognitive conflict. In simple terms, it means they feel contradictions more intensely. They can hold joy and despair, hope and doubt, all at once, and still move forward. It's emotional gravity, and that's what makes them human in the most profound way. What's often mistaken as detachment in people like Musk is actually emotional overload. When you care about something as vast as the future of civilization, small talk begins to sound like static. You start to feel every global crisis as if it's personal. The destruction of a forest, the pollution of an ocean, the suffering of people you've never met. It all becomes part of your internal landscape. That's not lack of empathy, that's too much of it. It's empathy at a cosmic scale. There's a term in psychology called transpersonal love. It's love that transcends the personal. Love for humanity, for truth, for existence itself. It's rare and consuming. It's what drives artists, inventors, and revolutionaries. It's what drives Elon Musk. His secret relationship is not with a person, but with the potential of humankind. It's a relationship defined by trust, risk, and heartbreak, the same ingredients that define any deep love. Only in his case, the stakes are planetary. And yet, for all the intellect and ambition, what truly defines this relationship is vulnerability. To care about something so vast means accepting that you will never fully control it. Rockets will explode, ideas will fail, humanity will misunderstand you, but you keep loving anyway, because love, real love, is not conditional on success. It's unconditional on purpose. That's what separates a visionary from a dreamer. A dreamer imagines, a visionary endures. The emotional side of this story is often invisible. We see the launches, the interviews, the tweets, but not the silence that follows when the cameras go off. We don't see the nights when the weight of expectation becomes unbearable, when every choice feels like it could change the course of history. Neuroscientifically, prolonged emotional intensity can alter brain chemistry. Chronic stress raises cortisol levels, suppressing serotonin and dopamine balance. But the brain adapts through neuroplasticity, building resilience, learning to transform pressure into purpose. That's what we're witnessing, a living mind evolving under the weight of its own mission. Every human being, in some way, has their own version of this secret relationship. It might not involve rockets or cars or global transformation, but it's there. That one thing that makes you lose track of time, that makes your heart race, that pulls you out of bed even when you're exhausted. It's your inner calling. And here's the lesson from Musk's journey. If you nurture that connection, if you honor that relationship, you can move mountains, you can change the world. But there's another truth, one that's harder to face. The deeper your relationship with your purpose, the more it will demand of you. It will test you. It will strip away comfort and certainty. It will ask for sacrifices no one else understands. You will have to choose between what's easy and what's meaningful. And in that choice, your character is born. The neuroscience of purpose tells us that meaning and pain are intimately linked. Without challenge, the brain doesn't release growth-related neurochemicals like BDNF, the compound that literally helps neurons grow. Pain isn't a barrier to growth, it's the price of it. That's why Musk's story resonates so deeply. It's not about technology, it's about transformation. Both human and emotional, his work is a mirror for our collective evolution. The rockets, the cars, the AI, they're just expressions of something ancient within us, the desire to connect, to create, to protect what we love. That's the secret relationship we all share, whether we realize it or not. And yet, even love for humanity can feel lonely, because the future, by its very nature, exists in the imagination before it exists in reality. To live for the future is to live slightly out of sync with the present, to walk a path others don't yet see. It's a spiritual solitude that only those who've felt it understand. But that solitude is also sacred. It's the space where vision is born. If we zoom out beyond the personal story, beyond the science and the spectacle, we see a universal pattern. Evolution itself is a story of love, molecules binding together, cells cooperating, species forming communities. From the smallest neuron to the largest civilization, everything thrives when connection outweighs isolation. That's not philosophy, that's biology. The human brain evolved not just to survive, but to belong. Connection is our original programming. And every time we innovate, we're trying to remember that. So perhaps the shocking truth isn't that Elon Musk has a secret relationship. It's that we all do. We are all in a relationship with the future. Some nurture it, some neglect it, but none of us can escape it. The real question is, are we treating it with love or with fear? Are we building toward it with empathy or with indifference? Because the future is not an abstract concept. It's a living thing, shaped by the emotions we invest in it today. There's a profound lesson in neuroscience that mirrors this truth. Neurons that fire together, wire together. The more we focus on something, an idea, a dream, a hope, the stronger the connections become. That's how the brain learns, and that's how civilizations evolve. The emotional energy we give to progress determines its direction. Fear wires the brain for defense. Love wires it for discovery. Which one we choose determines everything. So when you look at someone like Musk, don't just see the entrepreneur or the engineer. See the human being in love with possibility. See the sleepless nights not as obsession, but as devotion. See the risk taking not as recklessness, but as courage born of care. Because beneath every rocket launch is a beating human heart, daring to love what doesn't yet exist. And perhaps that's what this entire story is really about. Daring to love something invisible. To love a future that hasn't happened yet. To love humanity, even when it seems to falter. To love the unknown, even when it terrifies us. That is the essence of every breakthrough, every discovery, every miracle we've ever achieved. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we stand here tonight, remember this, the greatest relationship you will ever have is not with another person, but with the future you are building. Love it fiercely, protect it tenderly, and never stop believing that your emotions, your fear, your hope, your wonder, are not distractions from progress, but the fuel that drives it. Because in the end, all great love stories begin the same way, with a leap of faith, and the one between humanity and its destiny is still being written.